As you guys saw at the end of the last video that Z and I just did on the NFC West, you saw Bernard's backside, never seen his front side.
That's not even Barry.
Yeah, I know it's Comet.
That's not Comet.
Who is that?
Let me zoom in out a little bit. You should know. You should know who this is.
It's definitely not Bella.
No.
Yeah, I should know who this is.
You just followed him on Instagram.
Oh, is that Andrew's dog?
Yeah.
I thought it was Comet.
God's Comet. Just so you guys know what Comet looks like. I mean, God, I mean that's horrific. Because
I haven't seen a picture in Comet in years.
Yeah, I know you haven't, but obviously Comet had a very, very white face. And there he is, right there.
Yeah.
That's a living legend right there, ladies and
That's
gentlemen.
the big C. That's the big C.
Yeah, that's the OG legend.
Yeah, that really is. It'll never be touched.
And just so you guys know what that picture is, we'll go ahead and zoom out.
Yep, and there's Bell. And with a banana. That sounds about right. Z teasing his animals.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, like I said, Z, I haven't seen Comet in a long time. I didn't know if that was a younger picture of him where, he's got more gold. I wasn't sure what was going on.
Yeah, and the quality of the picture. I mean, you think if he was that young, do you think the picture would be that quality?
No, probably not.
No. So, we're back, guys. It's the same day.
Yeah,
same day.
You guys can see it's the same outfit, same day. So you guys will be seeing this.
Except wearing a different color hat.
Yeah. Well, that's true. But as Z and I just kind of wrapped up the NFC West, as you guys seen our recent video here, we are going to be presenting to you the NFC South. Probably not going to be as long as a video, more in depth as the last one. But as we broke down the NFC West, it's going to be the same way with the South here, and we're just going to get right into it here. That's what we're going to do. We're gonna hop right into this. And
and I think one of these times we have to do some matching outfits while we're talking.
Yeah, matching outfits. Well, you know what's funny is that you criticized me with the same black collared shirt that I have. You have the same exact one.
Yeah, you're right.
The Izod collared jersey.
Yeah, I think I do actually.
Yeah, you do.
I think I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, you do. The difference is I wore this to work today. Z on the other hand will wear a complete golf outfit just to go shopping.
Yeah, and you dress to impress. I mean that's just the mind that you don't have.
Who are you impressing?
Just impressing myself.
Yeah, you're trying to impress yourself.
So.
All right. Well, aside from the point, Z and I are going to lock in here and continue to keep the tempo rolling here, going in the NFC South.
Ew. Hold on.
That's my reaction when I see this division.
Before we get started, this is episode
54.
54. So
this is episode 54.
Welcome back if you're seeing this video. If you didn't see our first one, welcome back.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in, supporting here.
Episode 54, part two of 8 of our division breakdowns.
Correct.
And we got them up right here, ready to go. NFC South, obviously over the years, and one of the more weak divisions.
Yes, for a long time.
Long time. I mean, the Tom Brady 8-9 Bucks won it like 2 years ago.
Right.
So, this division could definitely have some sprinkles of surprises in here. I mean, I'll be interested to see where you go with your predictions on this.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think the best way to start here is to go left to right. Right. So
yeah, sure. I agree.
I mean, I think if we want to start with the Atlanta Falcons, because they had some major headlines over the offseason.
Yeah.
For one very particular reason. And would you like to say?
Well, we all know the headlines. We all know they signed Kirkland to a 4-year max contract, and then they decided to take quarterback Michael Penix with the 8th overall pick. So, so that was really the huge headlines. Not really sure how there's any Falcon fan that was excited by that move. Not that Michael Penix doesn't have a future in the league. Not saying he doesn't have a future or anything. It just did not make sense. Why do you sign Kirk Cousins to a big 4-year contract to draft a 24-year-old quarterback?
Yep.
Why? Yeah, maybe it's different if he's 21 and he's going to sit maybe for a year or two. But why do you why? What's the whole mindset with that? I don't understand. Right. Now, with that being said, we're going in this Atlanta Falcons team with Kirk Cousins as your starter. They have a new head coach in Raheem Morris. They brought in, I think his name was Zach Robinson from the Rams to call the offense. So there's some ties there. We look at Bijan Robinson. We look at the way the Falcons offense was utilized last year wasn't very good to these guys' potentials. Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, it just wasn't there. Now, the quarterback play was horrendous too with Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. Awful. It was awful. And we look at them defensively. I even like what they have defensively. They're actually bringing in Justin Simmons for a visit today. So that could even be an interesting aspect. But when we look at the Atlanta Falcons going into this year, when we looked at them last year, we looked at them last year of where, at least the way I looked at them was that, you know what, if they actually had a decent and above average quarterback, I actually think that they could win that division. That division was awful last year. The division was awful last year. Tampa Bay, I think, exceeded expectations a little bit, but the division wasn't very good. Tampa Bay won it. What they won 9 games last year?
Yeah.
I think they won 9. Looking at Atlanta last year with the playmakers you have on offense, with some of this talent defensively, you look at some of your corners, you look at some of your defensive line, guys like that. This is a team that if they had some solid quarterback play, that not only would they have won their division last year, they could have possibly won a playoff game, possibly. And I believe that if they had solid quarterback play. Now, this year, you bring in Kirk Cousins, 35 years old, coming off a torn Achilles. Kirk Cousins was playing as the best quarterback in the NFL before he got injured. That is statistically, he was the best quarterback.
That's a fact. That's an absolute fact.
That's a fact. That's an absolute fact. Question is, how is Kirk Cousins going to come in, being 35, coming off that type of injury, and now with a whole new roster, whole new coaching staff, whole new personnel, whole new just everything? That's going to be interesting. Now, I believe in Kirk Cousins. I think that Kirk Cousins can get this team to being one of the better offensive teams in the league, led by Bijan Robinson. Hopefully, Kyle Pitts can be used correctly, and you also have Drake London in there. They brought in Rondale Moore through trade, but obviously he got injured. So there's a few factors to their offense, Z, that can be highly productive with those 3 skill guys. When I look at the Falcons, they're definitely the favorite to win this division. They've been the favorite to win the division. We look how weak this division is. If Atlanta does not win this division, there's something massively, massively wrong.
Yeah.
Atlanta should win this division. I think that they're ahead of Tampa Bay by a decent margin. We'll get in the Saints and the Panthers, but with the Atlanta Falcons, with that being said, I like the addition with Kirk Cousins. There was some talk maybe they were going to look at Justin Fields. There was some talk that they were just going to draft a quarterback. They ended up doing Cousins and drafting a quarterback. Now, that's a whole nother conversation of being a wasted pick, but I view this Atlanta Falcons team, Z. I'll be honest with you. I think that this will end up being one of the better offenses in the NFL. I think that this is going to be a top 10 offense this year. I'm going to give them 11 wins in winning the NFC South.
Yeah, that's big. Yeah. I mean, that's huge.
I'm big on the Falcons. I believe in Kirk Cousins. I know that there's people that don't. There's people that do, but I think that he's been a little underrated the last 3 years. He's coming off an injury that's a little concerning, but I think with his skill position players, I think with some of the new coaching that's there with Atlanta, I like what they have on the other side of the ball. This is a very winnable division, and I think when you factor in the division games for this team, I think that they should win most of them. I'm going to give them 11 wins.
Well, first of all, I hope you guys are liking the way I'm trying to change it a little bit this time. We did just a lot of pictures of the NFC West. I'm trying to find videos of practices and stuff of these teams.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's good because obviously this is the main topic of the Falcons, of watching Kirk and Michael Penix throw.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, and you pretty much hit everything on the money right there. I'm gonna start off by saying, yeah, I'm gonna pick the Falcons to win the division. I don't think it's the sexy pick by any means.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably what most people are going to be predicting. But yeah, I believe in Kirk Cousins. The Justin Simmons visit, if you will, is interesting because, you know, like him and Jesse Bates are already like kind of like a similar player. So that'll be interesting to have two of the same player on the same, but you know, along with AJ Terrell and Grady Jarrett, like they would have just such a good defense. And Raheem Morris, their new head coach, is a defensive coach. So, but with their offensive personnel, the offensive personnel is obviously going to be the heart and soul of this team. Just let alone with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix being the headline of the team, 2 players being the headline of the team, in the same position.
And they honestly have a pretty good line too.
Yeah. I mean, you obviously hope that new offense coordinator, Zach Robinson or whatever his name is, that he utilizes what the Falcons have on offense better than what Arthur Smith did. Because what Arthur Smith did, obviously everybody in fantasy got pissed off at him.
Bijan, Algier,
especially myself.
Yeah.
But that's a great point you just brought up. I mean, having one of the best running back duos in the league right now. Having one of the best running back duos in the league, having really like a top tier wide receiver that is not really top tier 1 at this moment.
Yeah.
But he could elevate himself, Drake London, up to tier 2. And then obviously 100%. The biggest one of them all is freaking Kyle Pitts. Guy hasn't produced, but he was first round pick 3 years ago. So, and then
this is a big year for him.
And they also they signed another receiver, didn't they? Or didn't they?
Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, whatever. So,
they signed Darnell Mooney and then they traded for Rondale Moore, but Rondale Moore is out.
Right. So the offensive personnel is undoubtedly there for them.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about the Falcons is there's just so many questions. There's so many questions with them, and that's what the NFC South is really loaded with every single team. But the biggest question with the Falcons, I don't think is if they can win this division, is if they can compete with the rest of the NFC. If they can compete with Philadelphia, if they can compete with San Francisco, if they can compete with Dallas, if they can compete with Detroit, can they compete with these higher tier teams and make this jump? I'm a believer that they can.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about Raheem Morris as a head coach, but I'm excited for them. I'm excited to see Atlanta this season. I hope Kirk stays healthy because he's a good guy.
Yeah.
And he was definitely done dirty. 100% he was.
Yeah.
So I would have fired that GM on the spot.
I mean, they could have got Roma Dunze.
Yeah, they could have.
Another offensive playmaker.
Ed and I are both going to pick Atlanta win division. I don't think I'll give them 11. I think I'll just give them 10. I think I'll go 10 and 7. That's
fine too. I was thinking 10, but I just kind of factor in the division. I just think they're going to win most of their division games.
Right. So yeah, shout out to Atlanta. Now, moving on. Now, I think this is where it's going to be tough to flip a coin on second and third. Obviously, I'm thinking between New Orleans and Tampa.
Right.
I don't know who you're thinking.
Yeah, I think when we kind of look at the landscape of both, I think the Saints are in a little bit of a messy situation right now, and I'll get into that. I'm going to pick Tampa Bay to finish second. And when we look at Tampa Bay, I think they exceeded expectations last year. I'm still not sold on Todd Bowles being a head coach. Baker Mayfield had a good bounce back season. Good for him. Mike Evans returns. They have Rashad White, one of the more young upcoming running backs. They still have some talent defensively that's there. Chris Godwin still. They have a couple. They like to use their tight ends a little bit with Kate Otten and the other guy. I can't remember his name. But with that being said, I look at Tampa Bay. I honestly, I don't really – they didn't move the needle this offseason. They really kind of kept things pretty status quo for the most part. They extended a couple guys, et cetera, traded Carlton Davis, all that kind of stuff. So they kind of kept the status quo. They hit their draft. They didn't really move much in free agency, extended a few players, which is fine. Winfield, Mike Evans. I really kind of view Tampa Bay in the same situation. I don't think Baker Mayfield's gonna elevate his game any higher than he did last year. I think what Baker Mayfield did last year is good enough. I think that you can win with play like that. I think what he did last year, Z, is the best that they're going to get from him this year if he can replicate that. And I think with that being said, that we're kind of really looking at the same mainstay here. All things considered, I look at Tampa Bay. I'm going to drop them by a game. I think they're going to be in the same position, but I'm going to give them 8 wins. I think Atlanta's going to, like I said, I think that they're going to win most of these division games. Tampa Bay will win a few, but Tampa's just, they haven't really moved the needle much for me this offseason. I think they're kind of sitting in that same position. And I think when we look at the landscape of the rest of the NFC, I think there's a few other guys I put ahead of them.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa's always been one of those teams, really, ever since like Bruce Arians came. I know he's not the coach anymore, but ever since he came into their organization, like they've stayed like pretty stale.
Yeah, they have. Isn't he in their front office now? I'm pretty sure he's part of their front office.
He's somewhere up there.
Yeah.
Like Todd Bowles still being the coach is like honestly kind of crazy. I don't think he's a terrible coach, but like
and they lost their offensive coordinator from last year.
Yeah,
he's coaching Carolina.
Is it Leftwich?
No, not Leftwich. What's his face?
He's coaching Carolina this year.
Yeah, it's what's his face?
Matt Rule.
Yeah, Matt Rule. It's Dave Canales.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think with the, I really do think with the Buck.
Yeah, he was the OC last year. Last year was his first year as offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay.
Right. I do think with the Buccaneers, where like now also they obviously lost Devin White. They lost Devin White for agency. But they made a lot of, I feel like a lot of big moves. I mean, or maybe not a lot of big moves, but like the biggest move of the offseason was giving, Baker a big extension.
Right.
Mike Evans, Chris Godwin are still around. Yes, they do have a pretty good running back. Their offensive line is still pretty well intact, having one of the best tackles in the league. Yeah. Their defense has always been pretty good. They have one of the best safeties, if not the best safety in the NFL right now, with Antoine Winfield.
Right.
So I do think Buccaneers will have a winning record.
Okay.
I think I could also put them at 10 wins. I think I could. I think it'd come down to a tiebreaker with them. I do. Okay. I mean, I respect what they've built. I respect what they really. Hold on, this is gonna play noise. Yeah. I like them. I like them coming in the season. I like the way they play. They're a run heavy team, really kind of old school like. So yeah, I'm not gonna pick them away in the division, no, but it also depends on, like, obviously Baker's like entire career has been such a roller coaster.
Yeah, it really has.
Such a roller coaster with Baker. And really, like any team we talk about, is the quarterback's always going to be the head of the conversation. Like once we get to the Panthers with Bryce Young, but like with Baker, dude, I mean, like his career obviously got off to a good start, leading the Browns to a pretty decently good playoff run. And then he started getting all these endorsements and being on commercials, and Colin Cowherd admit he was wrong about him. And then as the years progressed and Odell came on the roster and like on the Browns roster, it just didn't work out too well. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't work out in Cleveland. And then he got traded to Carolina, and then he got waived, and then he signed with the Rams. Yeah. And then the offseason he went to Tampa. Like, it was really just all over the place. And he competed with Kyle Trask, and he beat him out. Right. And then he led the Buccaneers to, again, a decent playoff run last year. Right. So
yeah, no, I think he had a good season last year. I just don't think, Z, that he's going to raise that ceiling any higher.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest question with Baker, right? Hold on, what I just do here.
And like, if he can give them a lot of what he did last year, they can win with that. That's what I said. Like, with what he did last year, you can win with that. He had a pretty good season. But they didn't move the needle too much from this offseason, Z. And I'm just not sold into what they're trying to do again this year based off them just winning 9 games last year.
Yep. Yeah. I think Baker's at the point of his career, kind of like in the same place with Kyler. I think I can make a case that maybe Baker's had a better career than Kyler. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. I think him and Kyler are in such a similar position in the way of, like, this is going to be a big year for them because their roster is really set around them. They're both healthy coming into the year. I know those stats would be so hard to see. I'm sorry, guys, but last year with Tampa, he threw 28 touchdowns, 10 picks, over 4,000 passing yards. So really just a good season. Good season from him. And I do hope he does well. I think the league is better when Baker plays well and like his ego comes out and his confidence. I think you need to see more of that at the quarterback position. So I hope he does well. I do hope Tampa Bay does well. I'm going to go down there one time this year because the Ravens will be there.
There you go.
But yeah, obviously they have Levante David coming. I feel like that guy's been there forever. So yeah, we're going to both pick them second. I'm going to hold off on giving them a wild card for now. Because I feel like I have to weigh the other divisions first.
Yeah.
I'll say very, very optimistic them being a wild card.
Okay. All right. So I have them at 8 wins. Z's kind of teetering around 9 or 10. Thinks that they'll kind of be in the same spot as they were last year, probably. When we look at the Saints, so we're both in agreement with 1 through 2. I think we're probably going to agree on this entire division. The Saints are in a mess. See, Dennis Allen, a head coach. Like, what are we doing? Awful, awful. The Saints fans don't even want Derek Carr there anymore. Derek Carr, the Derek Carr experiment's not working out. You have Alvin Kamara there, Chris Olave. Really, outside those two guys, nobody else really moves the needle. Defensively, you have a little bit of a few guys on your defense aging a little bit. Honey Badger in the secondary still around. Marshawn Lattimore. Like, they just feel like a stale team, Z. They feel like a stale team that hasn't really been able to move forward since Drew Brees, that is just kind of stuck in mediocre purgatory.
Yeah.
And when we look at the Saints, I like Kamara still. I like Olave, but I'm not buying it, Z. I don't like the head coach. Their roster, like I said, it just feels stale. And when we look at the landscape of their division, I'm not buying it, Z. And I'll be honest with you, Z. I'm gonna be honest with you right now. I say we see Spencer Rattler start a few games this year.
Yeah, is this him right here? I don't know. Yeah, this is from their first preseason game against the Cardinals.
I don't know who that is. Rattler's, I think, like 18 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Coach is freaking out. It's a preseason game. Relax.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I'm not on the Saints, guys. I'm not on the Saints. I just don't think they haven't been able to figure out since Breeze haven't been able to move forward. Don't like their coaching. Not too big on their roster personnel at all. I think that they don't really have a lot going for them right now. I think that they have a really uncertain future. It's pretty foggy. There's really just no sense of direction. Let me put it that way. They don't have a sense of direction right now. And with that being said, Z, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say 6 wins for the Saints here, finish in 3rd place.
Sure. I think both of us were a lot higher on them last year.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Like, who was their quarterback before last year? It wasn't Breeze, right? They had one quarterback in between. Was it? I
think it was Winston. Or was Winston or Dalton or something like that?
Oh yeah, because I think Winston got hurt or something, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah. Winston and Dalton. That was the experiment.
Yeah. So that was bad. And then they brought in Derek Carr the next off season, which kind of reminds me of this for an example of like the Cardinals bringing in Carson Palmer that year. Like back 9 of his career. Let's bring in a veteran quarterback. Let's see if it helps out our roster. And I thought like at first it was a good idea, and it kind of did. And like it didn't start off too bad for the Saints.
Yeah.
But like, do we have any Spencer Rattler highlights in here? Here's a picture.
A couple pictures.
We'll just pull this up. Just so you guys know, we went to high school with him, and I almost hit him in the head with an orange.
It's probably deserved, to be honest.
Yeah, I probably would have got expelled.
Yeah, you got expelled. So. I mean, it'd be cool to see him out there. When Rattler first went to Oklahoma, he was projected to be the 1st overall pick.
Yeah,
and then he started to play, and then Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. We went to the same high school as him. He was a freshman the year we were seniors, and he started on the varsity team.
Yeah.
So the fact that his first official NFL game was in Arizona, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I know it's not a regular season game, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he had plenty of family friends show out to that game. But anyways, back on topic with the Saints. Yeah. First of all, I could debate as the worst head coach in the league.
Yeah, you definitely could make a debate for sure.
Yeah. It would Dennis Allen.
Awful.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's a good defensive play caller.
No, I don't think so either. I don't know who their offense coordinator is.
I don't even know.
But I look at their offensive personnel and like it doesn't blow me out of the water. I know Chris Olave is maybe a top 15 receiver. Alvin Kamara. I mean, he's
Clint
still
Kubiak.
pretty.
They brought him in this year from the Niners.
Interesting. Okay. I'm sure he Kyle Shanahan's system.
That's a good start.
Yep.
But there's just no direction, Z. They're in a fog. That's what I want to say. If I'm a Saints fan, I'm saying, listen, dude, we're just in a big fog right now. Like we just don't have any direction. What are we doing? And I don't think they even know.
I agree. I at the same time, again, I do think when the Saints are good, it's better for the NFL. New Orleans has good fans.
I agree with that. Yeah.
It's always a party atmosphere when the Saints play at home. Yeah. So, but I agree with Ann on this. I mean, I'm not really gonna give them like a win-loss total here because if we're gonna have a team that's like not making the playoffs, I just don't really care.
Yeah.
I'll say around the 7-win mark too, I guess. But yeah, I just don't think they're optimistic. I'm not optimistic about them by any means. I think they have a lot of like old expiring players. Sure, some of them are still pretty decently good. Marshawn Lattimore is good. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu still okay. Demario Davis is still one of the top linebackers in at his position.
Yeah.
Cameron Jordan. But again, all these guys are like almost in their 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Derek Carr's in his mid 30s now. And is this guy anything special? So Ed and I would definitely both be wrong if the Saints come out of nowhere this season. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Spencer start at some point in the year. That's going to be my final conclusion on the Saints.
I agree. And that's truly all you'll have to know about their season.
Yeah.
And moving on to the last but not least, we're going to go to arguably the worst team in the NFL, the Carolina Panthers. We look at the Panthers' new head coach, new coaching staff. They get their head coach from the Tampa Bay as their offense coordinator. Bryce Young, we just don't know who this guy is yet. We don't know who it is yet. Not ready to write him off. They trade for Deontay Johnson. They still have Adam Thielen there. They trade Brian Burns. When we look at this team, we know they're in a full-fledged rebuild. They still have a ways to go. They're not in a place of where that when we were looking at the Texans years prior or things like that, Washington, these teams that were in full-fledged rebuilds, Carolina really has kind of kickstarted that the last year or two, and it's still a process, and they're going to end up being possibly the worst team in the league again. And really the main thing for them, if we want to say what's really going to determine success for them, is being able to see that Bryce Young's your guy.
Yeah, I think of the talk with Bryce Young. Again, we're on the topic of a number 1 overall quarterback. Mm-hmm. There's many of them in the NFL. And he's coming into his second year, so we kind of have to chill on him just a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now, at the same time, I will say that I feel like the Panthers are more talented than what people really do think. But yeah, at the same time, you did trade one of the best pass rushers in the league last season, or at least maybe the last year or two, he's been one of the better ones.
Right.
But yeah, dude, it's the thing is about the Panthers is just they're just behind the competition, right? You also have a lack of ownership. You can't really sell out home games.
Yeah.
So your fans don't really show up, and I mean that's not a shot towards them. It's just kind of the way it is,
right?
So I think what square one starts with is Bryce Young wasn't really healthy last year. So you kind of got to start there, but also do we think this guy can succeed? A lot of people, I kind of compare him to Kyler based off his size and does he have the ability to play in the NFL? Who knows? I mean, honestly, who knows? I'm not going to doubt Bryce Young's talent. He was number 1 overall pick for a reason. So I'm not going to sit here and say I know a ton about the Carolina Panthers because I truly don't. I truly don't. But I know they signed Jadeveon Clowney in the offseason.
They brought in the Bills corner Dane Jackson. They still have Shaq Thompson's there. They got Ashawn Robinson in there. Nothing impressive. They signed Jordan Fuller at safety. J.C. Horn's obviously a guy that's an upcoming corner. Drafting Xavier Legette. So, it's not that they're talentless. They're not. I think that they could possibly end up being the worst team in the league just in the sense of Bryce Young not panning out. And they're not talentless. There's certain spots of talent, but there's also, I think, a lot of spots that still lack. And they are in a full-fledged rebuild and recognize that. Unlike the Saints, the Panthers have somewhat of a direction with Bryce Young, with trying to get better on the defensive side of the ball, making a move for Deontay Johnson, trying to add a little bit. So there is a sense of direction for the Panthers. They're not directionless. But the thing with them is that they're just still a ways away from where they need to be. So really the big thing is Bryce Young becoming who you hope he is, getting what you can out of him this year, a young defense taking a step forward, your head coach starting to bring a little bit of a culture there offensively. I think them maybe winning, I don't know. I think if they could find themselves winning 6 games, I think that would be good.
I think what they have to start with this
receivers on 3, 1, 2, 3.
I think what they have to start with this season is what kind of stretches are these? What are they doing?
Yeah, I know.
I think what they really have to start with this season is their division games. And if they play well inside their division, then I mean just like any team in the NFL, but that could really,
especially with this division.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. they're young. They're younger than pretty much every single team in the division.
Yeah.
Maybe other than like the Falcons.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to go full fledged that they're going to be the worst team in the league because there's some splashes of talent, like I said, especially with their new head coach and with Bryce Young. They could be, just given things don't really pan out again this year, but at least they have a sense of direction.
Right. So, how many wins you giving them?
I'm going to give them 5.
Give them 5.
Yeah, I'm going to give them 5 on the year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a couple other teams I could think of that I think could probably be just as bad or worse. But yeah, with that being said, that's what we're going to go with. So Z and I both have the Falcons, the Bucks, the Saints, and the Panthers. The Falcons win their division. Z likes the Bucks a little bit more than I do. But yeah, so that's the NFC South.
Yeah, and Falcons, yeah, they didn't make the playoffs last year, right? No, they didn't.
No.
Yeah, so yeah, that's our here we go. So that's our NFC South one.
That is the NFC South breakdown, ladies and gentlemen. As Z and I start doing more of these breakdowns, you might start seeing a little bit of a different element in how we do things, different clips, different videos, maybe some different sounds, music, things like that we're going to bring in to kind of keep you guys intrigued. But they're not going to be long videos. They're probably going to be about 20 minutes to 30 minutes, give or take, probably around there. So we're about a half hour here. But this is part 2 of our NFC 2024 division by division breakdown, starting with the NFC. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Like I said, we just did one of the NFC West as you guys look at our recent video, but episode 54 here, NFC South 2024 division breakdown presented by Z and I. We appreciate your support. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And this is how we're going to end it. And we're going to end it like this, guys. You guys can see Z's true identity. You can see really how Z truly acts outside of his Twitch, outside of here on YouTube. And truly just how everybody else views him. So thank you guys for...
Good night, guys. We love you. We love you.
Thank you guys for your support.
Enjoy this photo. You guys don't know what's coming.